Chelsea fans, welcome back to another week of Chelsea Chat with me, Moose, and JB. Don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the bell notification and comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts around last week's conversation and then anything we talk around this week. So JB, interesting week this week. We had obviously the Sevilla game, which was a great result, and then on to sort of the dirty Leeds game this weekend, which was another great result. So we're in I'm starting to get used to these positive podcasts. Wasn't as much last season, but I'm actually enjoying commentating on some of our good performances. And once again, unusual selections, but great performances from some individuals as well. So we'll talk around the Sevilla, we'll talk around Leeds, and then we'll go on to sort of looking forward to next week with Krasnodar. That's what I meant. Yeah, of course. And then on to Everton away, which will be an interesting game based on their run of form. So let's crack on with Sevilla. So top of the group, can't really complain with that. And what a performance it was. I was expecting a ball draw, if I was going to be completely honest. We were talking, we sort of called it last week in the fact that we thought there'd be a lot of players rested. Did I think that those players who'd come in would do as well? I didn't know. Giroud has been one of those people really unfortunate not to start with all the talent that we've got in attacking format, but to come on and score 4 goals was quite an impressive feat. What was your thoughts on the game?
When I saw the lineup, I was a bit concerned, because I was thinking we've learnt for the last few years how important it is to win our group, because every time we've come second, we always get one of the big teams and get knocked out in the next round, and it's just frustrating because you always think, like, what if Barkley didn't take the penalty against Valencia last year? You know, all of these things, you start thinking we could have won that group. So when he rested a lot of the players, what was it, 9 or 10 changes? 9 changes, I think it was. I was thinking, oh no, like we're through, so he's taken that as a good thing and not really caring about winning the group. Yeah, Giroud didn't really read that script, did he? 4 goals, perfect hat trick in that as well. It was sensational. I think the whole team were just outstanding, and considering the majority of those were, our second choice in almost every position, to go to a team who rarely loses at their home stadium, that I think we're only the second British team to ever win at that stadium, and to absolutely trounce them 4-0. It was obviously aided by the fact that they rested a lot of their key players because they were playing Real Madrid this weekend. So they had quite a big league game to face as well. But you can't ask for more than that, can you? Four goals away at Sevilla, absolutely phenomenal. And I just can't thank Arsenal enough for giving us Giroud on the cheap. That was what a bit of business that was. And this happens every year now. We start with a striker, insert striker here, and we always come back to Giroud because no matter how much we try to get rid of him, he always proves that he's still probably our best striker. And Tammy's not even performed badly at all. Tammy's been scoring goals. He's been playing well. He's had a couple of games where he's kind of been okay, but he's still been scoring and doing well. But you can't ignore 4 goals, can you? And he's just proven to us once again that he is an elite striker. All these people that have always said, he scores. I was one of them that says, he scores great goals, but he's not a great goal scorer. Well, he's proven people wrong time and time again. And I think he is the most underrated striker in the Premier League by far. He won us that game single-handedly almost. It was just brilliant.
I think the big thing for me is it was almost sort of everyone was talking around, we feel really sorry. We were even speaking on the podcast last week, feel really sorry around Giroud. He had an absolute outstanding performance in the second half last season, literally single-handedly pulled us into the top 4 with the goals that he scored. We've obviously heavily invested in our front line this year with some absolutely amazing talent and some great sort of players and individuals. And equally, I think you're right. Sort of Tammy hasn't done badly, but you can't really knock the manager because Frank's there sort of as a sort of football manager in the Premier League. You're only 6 games away from ever being at risk of losing a job. And if you've got a striker that can score goals and win you games, it's very difficult to go and position different strikers above them because Tammy, as good as he is, he's not going to get you a goal every game. He'll get you 1 or 2. He'll poach once in a while. He's still developing and maturing his game. I think sort of for a player of his style and his stature, he'll only get better as time goes on. But he's still got a lot to learn and mature. Whereas Giroud, he knows all the tricks of the trade. He knows how to hold up, play the ball. He knows how to sort of pinch a goal from literally any angle in any position. And I can't really see him being dropped at the moment until his performance falls off a cliff.
Yeah.
I think sort of for all the attacking choices that we brought in, I think we're still developing. And I know that we've seen some great performances off the back of that. You've seen Werner come in, do well. His performance has dropped over the last couple of games. He hasn't got sort of that edge as much as he has when he first started. And everyone's just developing and finding their own positions. But Giroud's just consistent. And I don't think you'll see Frank drop consistency at the time.
No.
I thought it was a great game, to be honest. Sort of seeing, as you said, sort of some of our fringe players come in and perform. It's what you're hoping for and expecting. Champions League, top in the group, hoping that we'll get a really good sort of route into the last 16 off the back of that. I think you'll see a proper fringe players come through in the next couple of games in the Champions League, which we'll talk around a little bit later. And it set us up so nicely because it allowed us to sort of rest a few players for sort of what's going to be a very harsh Christmas break or Christmas period for Chelsea, because some big games coming up and having an extra couple of games to sort of rest some of the players like Kante and those sorts, it makes a world of difference. But absolutely outstanding. 4 goals for Giroud, standout player in my eyes for that game. But some great performances nonetheless. As you say, Sevilla are not a difficult sort of an easy pushover team, but we got a great result. Then on to Leeds. Was interesting, actually entertaining. I think sort of edge of the seat sort of game for most of it. I wasn't sort of resting on any laurels even up until Pulisic's goal late in the game. They really wanted to stick it to us. And I think they did in the fact they caught us off guard. We were not on the money to start with.
I disagree, actually. I think the first, I know it was only 3 minutes before they scored, but I think we had like 2 chances to score before they even had touched the ball. It was, Ziyech had that good pass in from Tiago Silva and almost got a goal within the first 30 seconds. It was just a couple of mistakes defensively early on, which cost us that goal. And that seems to be the only way that we've conceded quite in the recent past. There was, other than the Rennes goal that we conceded, the Sheffield United goal and the Leeds goal were both very early. So, that maybe is something to look at. But no, I think we started the better team, and they just caught us on a break. A mistake from Zuma and a mistake from Mendy combined just allowed Bamford in. But it was then you kind of thought, oh God, here we go. We got a game in our hands now. And it was probably a good thing, actually, because I think it kind of gave us a kick up the backside. And from that point on, we had to go for it. We had to play and we had to do really well, considering what a great team Leeds are. You knew we had to be at our absolute best to come back into that game. So, I'd say the first half was fairly even. I think they had good chances, we had good chances, but second half is when we really came alive. We took the game by the scruff of the neck. They didn't really seem at it, and we just dominated them in the second half. And I think the key was the fact that I think when we brought on Kovacic, that made a massive difference. Havertz wasn't playing particularly great, but it was also the fact that you could see that Kante was kind of, and Tiago Silva in some aspects as well, were being allowed a lot of space. The whole man-to-man pressing thing with Leeds, if you can just beat your own man, then you're in space and you're going to overload them in attack. And Kante and Tiago Silva were the two that were able to do that to start with. And then when we brought Kovacic on, he was then being able to beat his man and carry the ball forward and create the chances from there. So that's where we won the game, I think, in that midfield, and even in some cases from Tiago Silva at the back. He had so much space at times during that game because no one was watching him, and he just was able to run through the middle quite a few times and just create the space himself. So it's not the kind of game where you can judge on form or how well we played. It was a very tactical affair where we figured out how to beat them, and we just utilized that and pressed forward and got the job done. So just delighted that we obviously went top for a little while as well, which was nice to see for the first time in a while. We finished the day top of the league, which was very nice.
I'm going to push on one point to Havertz not been playing as well as we were sort of hoping. I think you've sort of seen from Timo, he's hit the ground running, he's adapted to English football really well. Havertz is probably the polar opposite of that, really struggling for form and really struggling to find an identity in the squad. What do you think some of the key points around that are? How do you reckon Frank turns that around?
I think the problem is it's been a bit stop-start with Kai. He's obviously had a couple of injuries. He had his positive test. So he's not really been able to just get on a run and perform every week. It's been stop-start. Remember, he joined very late in the window. So he didn't have the same kind of time to integrate with the team as someone like Ziyech or Werner. I mean, you could argue that it's the same for Tiago Silva, but he's a seasoned pro. He's been doing this for a very long time. He knows exactly what he's doing. Kai's young. He's come to a new country. He's joined a new league. We don't play a style that is built around him, which is what they did in Leverkusen. The whole team was built around how to get the best out of Kai Havertz. We don't play that same way. We play how it was best for the team, and the player needs to fit into that. So I think he just needs to learn the league and learn his role within that team. It's going to take time. It's going to take playing. Just because he's not playing well now, if you just take him out of the team altogether, it's not going to help anything, I don't think. He needs that experience playing Premier League football just to learn his role in that unit. And I think it will come. I think he's too good of a player to not be one of the best in the league eventually. As I said, it's going to take time. He's 21 years old. But it will come. And when it does, I think people are going to be in for a shock at how good this guy actually is. But yeah, it's just going to take a bit of time. He needs to keep getting minutes, mainly in the Premier League. I think, if he's going to be rested or anything, then take that in the Champions League. But he needs to just get used to Premier League football a bit more and get used to that way that we want him to play for us. Maybe watch a bit of, what Mason Mount's doing, putting that pressure on and getting the ball back, turning and creating something. I think he would be better to kind of be a bit more attack minded than Mason Mount is, and press a bit forward a little bit more. But he just needs to learn that he's now a number 8 and not a number 10. He just needs to bring that part out in himself. So I'm looking forward to when he does finally grasp it, because I think we'll be even more frightened than we already are at the moment. Yeah,
and from the Leeds game, we obviously both, I think, we're in sort of a violent agreement that Giroud was sort of your man of the match for the Sevilla game. What were your thoughts on sort of your top player for the Leeds game? And I'll give my thoughts after that.
I think there was a few really good performances. I think the two main ones for me was probably, well, maybe three, but Rhys James, he had a fantastic game. As always, though, you come to expect that. He's almost like the Azpilicueta now, where he's just consistently good. But he just adds something more than Dave always did, and that's that attacking force. He's always in the right place, and he never kind of slacks in his defensive abilities as well. He's always there, ready to come back and win the ball back, even if he's caught out of position. I think Tiago Silva was outstanding. As I said, it was almost like watching Rio Ferdinand in his prime, taking the ball and bringing it forward and creating chances just from playing out from the back. And he was just outstanding doing that. And I think N'Golo Kante, as I said, and he was that one who was constantly beating his man and creating those chances for us. I mean, we could have scored so many goals, and the majority of them started from Kante beating his man and driving forward, like Kovacic usually does. And that's why I thought it was a great move to bring Kovacic on. But if I'm going to pick one person, I'd probably say it was Kante for me, would be man of the match.
Do you know what? I'm going to put a standout performance on this is Zuma, and I think it is the Tiago Silva effect. I know that it's not purely just based on the goals that he's scoring, but the maturity. I mean, last season, I know that we didn't have Tiago Silva in the mix, but sort of he hadn't quite peaked, and I think he's definitely getting into that. He's definitely becoming a challenger for one of the standout performers for a young defender in the league. It's nothing. It's no mean feat to sort of see that, but I think sort of we rotated so many players last season. He did perform, and I'm not taking that away from him. But sort of seeing Rudiger Christensen, he just seems to have stepped it up a gear this year, and I think he's developing such a great partnership with Tiago Silva. Absolutely amazing from what he is, and he's getting goals. I mean, I think Chelsea have got a pedigree of breeding defenders that score goals.
Yeah.
I think Zuma will quite quickly see himself in my fantasy team if he continues in there.
Well, that's 4 goals already this season as a centre back. I think we've scored 7 goals from corners this season, and I think the nearest to us is 3. So it just shows you, how dominant we now are in, attacking corners, and we don't seem to be conceding like we used to from them either. So obviously, aerially we've improved quite a lot. Obviously, he's an absolute beast up there, and he had a very good game yesterday. I'd say I probably wouldn't have given him man of the match personally because of the mistake he made, which led to the goal. I know it's harsh for one mistake, but I think there was just a couple of other performances where there wasn't as like any big mistakes that cost us. But no, yeah, absolutely. You just had a feeling, didn't you, the whole game that he was going to score. Every time we had a corner, it seemed to land on his head, and you just felt it coming. So yeah, I was delighted that he scored it. Definitely capped a good performance from him.
And so one of the things I'm also going to comment on is some of the other games, and I think sort of after seeing the Tottenham game this week, one of the things that's really sort of people are now commenting on is how good a performance Chelsea did last week in stopping that attacking. I mean, the whole angle that Tottenham used this week was effectively trying to hit Arsenal on the break, and successfully doing that twice, scoring some amazing goals. You're hearing from some of the pundits like Gary Neville, etc., talking around how well Chelsea did to contain the Mourinho effect. That it wasn't just a defensive line, and people sort of knew their jobs to try and sort of hold back. And I think that sort of is credit to Lampard. I think sort of when you see a 0-0 result, people just sort of completely just go, sort of stalemate at each side. But I think for us, sort of that's a great result. It shows the intent of where we're going. I know that we're both up at sort of the top of the league and there and thereabouts, but we just need to sort of now really maintain that performance and start to try and drive some of the results. So just have that extra edge to go and really grind a result from some of these big games. Obviously, great performances this week. We're on to the next week, and we probably need to sort of scrap all the the fanfare we've had and another 2 big games to sort of hold. I think sort of the first of which is going to be, I think, sort of very much sort of almost training ground game. I think you're going to see wholesale change again. I think we were talking just before this podcast. I wouldn't even be surprised if you see Kepa back in the squad, because it really doesn't stand for much. It very much stands on just pride on how many points we can get in the qualifying group. We've already topped it. Krasnodar are not the best competition. I think sort of you can't sort of ever rule anyone off who's in the Champions League, but I think sort of it's a great time to try and test out someone like Havertz, try and build his confidence by getting a goal in the Champions League, building in players like Billy Gilmore, building in players sort of almost a different back line completely. I wouldn't be surprised if we're seeing Emerson, if we're seeing Rudiger, Christensen. I'd love to see Tomori in that mix. I think you'll see Dave come back into the squad. I think you'll see Jorginho. I think you'll see Gilmore. And then it'll be interesting where they choose that attacking line. I think Hudson-Odoi has written himself into that squad just based on his performances. He's just, and the fact that we need to rest players like Ziyech going forward. But I think sort of Tammy will probably get a start. And I think, I don't know who else will sort of try and play in that mix.
I think it would probably be around maybe even 11 changes to the game, to the players that started against Leeds. I think we ran through what we kind of predicted our lineup was going to be at the beginning. I'm pretty, it'll almost be a full 11 changed. I think he'll have his eyes on Everton. He'll probably have a starting 11 for Everton in mind. And so I think, whoever plays is not going to be in his plans for the Everton game. Obviously, Giroud has shown you can play yourself into those plans. And so, the chance is there for anyone who wants to take it. Have a good game. I know it's a dead rubber. I know it's against Krasnodar at home, but score 4 goals, you'll be in the team. It's easy done, isn't it?
I think sort of you'll see some players really step up, and it'll be interesting to see which players really sort of are trying to sort of position themselves into the team, because like you've seen, sort of Pulisic, Ziyech, Hudson-Odoi, we've seen good performances across the board, but we've not seen a consistent starter because of injuries, because of sort of difference in sort of where they've played, etc. And I think sort of there's an opportunity for a lot of those players to sort of really sort of stake their claim to sort of the attacking lineup. I think the only position that may stay from this week is someone like Kai Havertz, and just to try and build his confidence. I know we don't want to build him into sort of having the team built around him, but I think they'll try and see him confidently, a confidence booster in just pinging balls through to him, just to see how much he can sort of score in that space. And as you say, I think everything is eyes towards Everton at the weekend, because after a very strong start at the beginning of the season, and I think sort of we had predictions here with yourself and Dan seeing Everton sort of looking to challenge. They seem to have dropped off a cliff after some of the international breaks. Not bad performances by any means, but not getting the results they need. They were sort of challenging for the top spot, to be honest, after the first 5-6 games. You couldn't really stop someone like Calvert-Lewin. And although he's scoring still, I think sort of with James Rodriguez not seemingly being on the mark and injured as well, they've really dropped off the face of the earth. And it'd be an interesting game for us, because it always worries me when you see players who are teams that are on a downturn and they turn up to us and they seem to therefore turn their season round when they play us. I worry for Everton game, not because I just worry we'll go in with a wrong mindset and a wrong lineup, because Ancelotti knows us. He also knows the league quite well now. we seemingly seem to have sort of a lot of managers going around like a bad rash at the moment. Sort of Mourinho, now into Ancelotti, and they've all got a bit of a chip on their shoulder when they've left us. So it's not just about winning the game; it's about beating Chelsea as well.
Yeah.
And they've got some good players. It's just whether we can nullify them like we did Tottenham and play well against them like we did Leeds. So who are you thinking for our starting lineup for Everton?
I think it will be very similar to who started this weekend. I think it'll be Mendy, obviously in goal, James, Zuma, Silva, Chilwell, you'll see Kante holding. I think it'll probably be, unless Havertz has a brilliant game midweek, I think you'll probably see Kovacic and Mount playing as the 2-8s. I think probably Pulisic and Werner on the wings. And unless Tammy has a brilliant game midweek, then it'll probably be Giroud through the middle again. It's shown really that you can stake your claim in these Champions League games. So that can completely change if someone has a brilliant game against Krasnodar and, as you say, writes themselves into the team. Callum, he's got the opportunity with Ziyech injured. He could stake his claim to start one of the league games. And he's got that much pace that he can give any fullback nightmares. So if he has a good game midweek, I definitely could see him staking his claim.
I'm going to make probably a controversial comment here, but I think based on the defensive duo of Everton, I think Giroud might be the wrong person to start, even though his form, etc., dictate it. Playing Werner through the middle may be a better route.
Do you know what? I thought that for Leeds. I genuinely thought that. I was kind of gutted that Giroud had got 4 goals, because I was thinking like he is the last striker that I would have wanted to play against Leeds, because the amount of running they do, Giroud isn't built for that. He's not the guy that runs around pressing hard. But it worked, and I think if you had Abraham or even Werner playing up front against Leeds, you would have had that guy who was pressing more, and I don't think it would have actually done the same job. So I think, Giroud might, you might look at it and think he's not going to have the same kind of pace to go through. But I think what he does is the fact that it's almost like what Harry Kane's doing at the moment. He drops deep and holds the ball up. And then you've got those 2 quick wingers who are going to then you've got Werner and Pulisic are going to be running towards the goal behind him. And that's where you've got your pace coming in, running at the defenders. And not only that, but Giroud will be dragging a centre half out with him as well most of the time. So you're still going to get that pace running at the goal. It ends up being almost like 2 up top with 1 behind, as opposed to 3, one in the middle and 2 playing wide. It kind of switches when that happens, and I think that would be where we beat Everton if we can get the most out of that with Giroud playing up front.
Well, I'm looking at the team that they played this weekend. So they had 3 centre backs and obviously 2 wing backs in Iwobi and Allen, I believe. No, sorry, it was Iwobi and Fabian Delph playing as wing backs. So they had Ben Godfrey, Yerry Mina, and Michael Keane. And I just think for those sorts of players, they are slow-moving centre backs with quite a sort of level of height and quite a level of power between them. And I just feel it's one of those games that you could put someone like Werner, who just sits on the back of them and just beats them all for pace.
Yeah.
Because I think sort of playing balls in at head height is going to be one of those ones where you're just not going to get a lot coming back from it. Mm-hmm. I think that could be a really good opportunity at sort of that head of the pitch, is sort of having someone like Werner just playing off the back of them and hitting them with pace. You saw that rapid pace that he hit Leeds with yesterday. Mm-hmm. I think through the middle that could be quite dangerous. I think in reality, I think you'll probably see Giroud start based on the form that he's got, and then potentially something like a a tactical change later down the line of switching Werner into the middle if that doesn't work. It's going to be interesting. I mean, on paper, it's a frightening forwards for Everton, sort of Richarlison, Calvert-Lewin and James Rodriguez. I think the thing that the Everton team miss is that a creative midfielder. I mean, Iwobi, Doucouré, Delph and Allen are not the most dynamic of, and this is a famous last words, if ever there was one, but you wouldn't sort of say they're creative as someone like a De Bruyne or something like that. They haven't got a killer pass to go and feed that front three, because that would be dangerous as soon as that gets played in.
That's where I think they need to have Hammers playing as like a number 10. I think they'd be a lot better off, but rather than sticking him out wide, I think he'd do a lot better if he was playing as number 10 and they can stick a Wobie on the wing or something, and just have Hammers just playing in behind Calvert-Lewin. But I'm not Carlo Ancelotti, so I'm not going to question him with his Premier League winners medal and my Football Manager winners medal.
Jamie, let's talk around. I think sort of we've all seen sort of how well both of us have done in fantasy football. I think there's a way of being able to sort of talk back to Carlo Ancelotti. I've played enough FIFA and I've played enough Football Manager, and I've also played enough fantasy football to know that what I'm talking about.
We have had good fantasy football weeks, that's for sure. Done well.
The whole Chelsea Chat podcast has had a good week. Just seeing myself and you climb further up the rankings. Unfortunately, I've not been doing the play predictor as much. I
think I'm 12,000 and something for the season so far. I got the correct result this weekend, so I predicted it to be 3-1 on there. So that was nice. I did say Werner was going to get the first goal, and he probably should have done. Other than the fact that he actually cleared it off the line.
At that point, that was the text to Jamie at the weekend where I just went, "What on earth is going on?" I mean, when you see it in slow motion, you can sort of see why and how he's done that.
Yeah.
But at the time when it's happening in real time, you're just going, "How has he cleared it off?" They've just had a defender go off injured, and he's managed to clear something off the line for them.
Done him a favour there, didn't he? He should have scored about 4 goals. Would have helped your fantasy team a bit more as well, wouldn't it?
He was captain this week, and so that's had an absolute gutting.
At least he got an assist for you.
Yeah. What an assist as well. Absolute pace. So I'm going to push you for predictions for both the Krasnodar game and the Everton game.
Krasnodar, I'm going to say 4-0. I'm going to go bold. I think be a good victory. Another 4-0. This time it's being at home. We're going to have some fans there as well, which obviously we forgot to say how good it was to have the fans back this weekend. And then I think for Everton, I think it might be another 3-1. I'm going to go 3-1 again.
So I'm going to go 2-0 for Krasnodar, and I'm going to go 2-1 for Everton. I think it's going to be a closer game in that space. I think we've got an exciting run of games coming up, a busy couple of weeks. I think apart from the massive gap in football that we had in March, for a couple of months, that's pretty much been sort of everyone's sort of experience this year. Sort of football has been sort of sporadic and then horrifically congested.
My wife's not too happy about it.
No, football just seems to be on at every single given point on different devices around my house. But I'm glad it's back. And what sort of it's so exciting at the moment. It's I think sort of I heard someone say the other day that sort of if West Ham had won yesterday, they'd have gone from 9th to top 4. So everything is still in it to play. You've got some teams that are doing not as well as others, but it's still an ability to sort of drive their way out of it. And as a fan who is in the top 2 spots at the moment, challenging for top spot, there's still a nervousness that can change very quickly. with Man United. I don't know how they've managed it, only 3 points behind us with a game in hand. I don't even know. I think Ollie has literally just gone in and changed the results, because there's no way that's mathematically possible. But there's going to be an interesting couple of games, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. So please comment below. We'd love to hear your predictions, who you think was sort of a standout performances over the next couple of games, and who you'd love us to sign in January if we decide to put our hand in the pocket again. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification. And you stay classy, Chelsea fans.